views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that brings the Bronx and the rest of the world straight to you. I'm your host, Darren Hyman. Today we're going to update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up on today's show, 44 states have fully or partially declined President Donald Trump's voter fraud commission. The request for all 50 states to turn over exceedingly detailed information on its voter rolls. Well, we'll talk to our political commentator to discuss the possible effects of this and much more in the political headlines. And then after that, it's never too late to learn English as a second language. And we have some representatives from the Lehman College School of Continuing and Professional Studies. They'll join us in studio talking about their program. Then, if you're worried about your finances, well, stay tuned because we're going to have a conversation about an upcoming panel informing the community about how to manage your credits as well as investments and finances. And then finally, as the Bronx mourns the death of police officer Mayosoto's Familia, who was shot fatally while sitting in a police vehicle in University Heights last week, we'll hear from an organization dedicated on improving the life of victims' families. As a representative from Blue Lives Matter welcomes us here, or will be welcoming them here on the studio. So we want you to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open. I'm your host, Darren Hyman, and of course, we are glad that you're here watching Open. We want to encourage you to stay connected to us, and you can find out more about us at Twitter at BronxNet TV and Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. Starting off with some local updates this week, Mayor Bill de Blasio is getting set for his re-election bid. He's hosting a town hall meeting right here in our borough. The mayor will tackle questions tonight from residents of the 14th Community Council District. The forum will take place at Crescent Academy, which is 2160 Crescent Avenue, at 7 p.m. Now, the mayor did win the Bronx handedly when he ran for mayor in the first time in 2013. Residents are asked to arrive by 6 p.m. and those wishing to RSVP can email townhallrsvp@cityhall.nyc.gov, or you can call 212-788-1412. Once again, 212-788-1412. Well, bus stops in our borough are seeing some real-time improvements. Several bus stops have been upgraded with real-time passenger information, including countdown clocks. The digital clocks hoisted at bus stop posts use the same GPS tracking system as the MTA's bus time feature, and that's only available online. Now, the countdown clocks, which are also equipped with an audio feature for the visually impaired, serve the BX3, BX22, BX28, BX36, BX40, and BX42 lines. The first areas in our borough seeing the upgrades are currently on the corners of East Kingsbridge Road and Grand Concourse, University Avenue and West Tremont, and University and West Burnside, and East Burnside and Jerome Avenue. So if you go to any one of those, I'm sure you'll see some real-time updates. Summer events are starting to heat up locally. Get ready to boogie on Sundays, July 23rd and August the 20th, as well as September 10th. The center lanes of the Grand Concourse from 162nd Street to 170th will be closed to cars and open for the community to boogie on the boulevard. A series of fun events with free music, arts, and fitness programs. The event is hosted from organizations from the Bronx, and the admission is free. And on that same note, the Bronx Summer Concert Series at Orchard Beach just started. And if you missed the first concert this past Sunday, come on out and enjoy some salsa, freestyle, bachata, merengue, R&B, and pop every Sunday through September the 3rd. Now, this is an initiative hosted by the Bronx Borough President's Office and is also free to the public. Well, the Bronx's own Saudi Tahada will be competing in her first Ironman competition on Sunday, July 23rd, with over 140 miles of swimming, biking, and running. Now, what does the top Latina triathlete do to warm up? Well, try competing in the New York City Triathlon. The race held this Sunday will see runners pass through the 5 boroughs, and part of the triathlon will pass right through the Bronx on the Meshulah Parkway. We take a look right
Being a triathlete is swimming, then biking, and then running. My name is Saudi Tahada, aka the Honey Badger, and I am an elite triathlete.
Saudi Tahada is actually the top Latina female in the tri-state area and has been for the past 5 years. She is our star, a natural podium finisher, and she beats about 95% of the guys as well.
After doing triathlons for about 6 years, I am going to be doing the longest distance that I've ever thought I was going to do it. I will be doing the Ironman. This will be my first marathon, my first Ironman, which is 140 miles, 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, followed by a full marathon. Please pray for me.
On July 23rd, Saudi Tahada will be competing in Ironman Lake Placid.
It definitely is a big commitment in terms of, putting in the time and getting all your equipment. Being part of Tri Huracan and working with Coach Ishmael Rodriguez, he's made the sport accessible. He's willing to work with athletes, and he's teaching people from the Bronx how to swim, how to bike, how to run with proper form.
Tri Huracan's mission is to bring this sport, the sport of triathlon, and fitness, the lifestyle, to all persons of color, particularly ones living in the Bronx. We're proud to say that Tri Huracan was born in the Bronx and is being raised in the Bronx. And as a Bronx boy myself, it's one of the things that makes me the most proud. We're basically an organization, a group of athletes who are just the average Joes, the average Janes of people. And then we have a Wonder Woman tossed into that mix. Saudi Tahada.
I came to the Bronx for school, and Hostos Community College really gave me that second chance to rebuild my life. I pretty much stayed on the honor roll, trying to bounce back from a very difficult situation. And then I went to Fordham, and I decided that I wanted to get my master's in the nonprofit sector. And I wanted to focus on fundraising and development because growing up in a single-parent household, nonprofits were so resourceful for me in terms of providing me with extracurricular activity, educational support, and we relied on them. Kids, especially kids of color, are 5 times more likely to drown in a pool. When I was 10 years old, I almost drowned. Soon after that, we got a scholarship through our church to take, basically a summer program at a pool. And that was when I got more comfortable in the water. That same year, I joined the swim team. It's so important for families to prioritize fitness, to prioritize these things, because they are lifelong skills, and they can be life-saving skills. The story of my life is really just really confronting fear and overcoming these fears and thriving. And the great thing about it is, I'm going to be representing Tri Huracan. I'm going to be representing the Bronx. It's exciting because in a sport that lacks diversity, to have a Latina athlete from the Bronx podium in a race, it is definitely breaking barriers and paving the way for more people to take on the sport.
The New York City Triathlon, July 16th, 2017, takes place there with a swim in the Hudson, a bike ride up the Hudson River Parkway, and a run in Central Park.
And there's a little part where they'll be visiting the Bronx, right at the turnaround point on the bike on Meshulah Parkway and Gun Hill. And that section right there is such a great spot for cheering. And I've done it for the past several years in my cheerleading outfit. And I encourage people to go there and welcome these athletes to the Bronx and show them how it's done in the Bronx and really motivate them and encourage them to finish this race. It's not always easy, especially for those that are, doing this for the first time. If you can do a triathlon and you can apply that same commitment, that same training and structure to other aspects in your life, it's not going to be comfortable at first, the first few weeks, the first few months, but once your body gets used to it, it's definitely something that will help you succeed in other areas of your life.
And of course, we wish her all the best. Listen, we're taking a quick break, but when we return, we'll give you the latest in politics.
Every Monday night at 9, we talk to the borough's movers and shakers about the latest in Bronx politics, education, healthcare, arts and culture, and literally any and everything that's important to the people of the Bronx. There's a reason why Bronxites have been turning to Bronx Talk for more than 20 years, because Bronx Talk is about you and me, the people of the Bronx. So we'll see you Monday night at 9.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
And we are back here on Open. Right now as we speak, Christopher Wray, who is the FBI director nominee, is meeting with the Senate confirmation. His confirmation hearings are taking place right now in Washington, D.C. Also out of Washington, President Trump's Commission on Voter Integrity has created some concern between voters and election boards throughout the nation. Now, in some states, there's been a noticeable increase in voters unregistering. In Colorado, one of the states that has agreed to share voter information, it's seen 270 voters actually cancel their registration, according to thinkprogress.org. Also, talking about Russia, and here to join us and talking about this topic and a whole lot more, Lee Bynes, our political commentator, and good to have you.
Good to be back.
Let's start off as we talk right now. Christopher Wray, FBI Director nominee in Senate hearings. What can we expect coming out of here?
Difficult to say because right now, depending on how things go with going with these investigations, is going to have a large effect on how Donald Trump accepts this new person. It's going to be difficult to find out how long he lasts if confirmed. So that's pretty much a wait and see situation.
And when we talk about Christopher Wray, obviously we know former FBI Director James Comey going through a lot in terms of the whole controversy surrounding him. How much is going to be pressure on Wray, given the fact that he's taking the place of an embattled FBI director?
Well, you know, it may be less pressure on him than one would think, simply because of the fact that these investigations are ongoing and the fact that they're at this particular time are heating up. If Donald Trump decides that he wants to cause problems or have his surrogates give this individual a difficult time, it's going to be extremely noticeable. I think the Democrats are on the other side of the aisle are going to be extremely quiet on that and kind of like wait and see if they're smart, let's put it that way, and wait and see how things turn out. I was a little concerned how things are going with these investigations moving beyond this new appointment effort, is because of the fact that some of the Democrats are going out on a limb right now talking about what happened with Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort in this recent meeting. And I find it difficult that the former vice president wannabe, Tim Kaine, had came out and started talking about using the word treason to describe the potential that could Jared and the rest of them could be facing.
Yeah, and let's talk about this and bring our viewers up to speed. If you don't know, Donald Trump, President Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., allegedly had a meeting with a Russian attorney in June 2016 with the express purpose that the Russian government had acquired some things from Hillary Clinton, allegedly. Looking at this right now, and obviously the president has enough to contend with in the White House already with several of the other things that are controversial. How much is this really going to play a part in the president being able to effectively govern, given the fact now that the spotlight is on his son?
Well, you know what? That is going to cause him more problems than one would possibly imagine simply because of the fact that, this looks like amateur hour right now. And the fact that Trump Jr. had such a extensive paper trail to actually advise as to what was happening. He actually put these words in writing and let them go. Obviously, it's a bigger problem than we can anticipate right now, simply because of the fact that those emails had already been leaked. He had several versions of his story before he was forced to come out and admit the real deal. And the New York Times had those emails. Where they came from, we don't know, but they're out there. They can't be denied. Donald Trump Jr. tried to get out front, which is a smart thing to do, because the last thing he wants to do is to find himself inside of an investigation situation himself, where he has to testify under oath and has to admit these things later on.
And there's talk, of course, of possible criminal prosecution. Do we possibly see this happening?
I don't see that happening necessarily with Donald Trump Jr. simply because that he's not a member of the administration. He's still working and running his father's businesses. However, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was also in that room. He does have the highest level of security clearance, and that could be a problem if he is not wise enough to know that you do not meet with an adversary no matter what they're offering. The big mistake that Trump Jr. made, as well as Jared and Paul Manafort, was the fact that they were willing to deal with a foreign nation. If you're working with Vladimir Putin, you must understand that this person does not have the United States' best interests at hand. If he was, in fact, trying to deliver dirt on Hillary Clinton, that was obviously he was trying to sway the election in the direction of Donald Trump. If so, why? Were there any strings attached? We don't know. And no one's yet to point any particular quid pro quo, but you have to understand it as possibly that it was there, and the fact that if Donald Trump Jr. knew about this, it's hard to believe that he didn't pass this information on to his father.
At the top of our segment here, we talked a little bit about voters and the sharing of voter information. Colorado's seen about 270 people actually cancel their voter registration because of the fact of having voters' information being shared, part of the president's initiative here. What kind of backlash are we really going to see? Is this really going to have legs and go far? I don't think it's going anywhere, simply because you have 44, maybe 45 states already denying the White House the information that they're seeking. And that's all based upon the fact that the president, to be honest with you, I don't want to be insulting, but the president is chasing rainbows and unicorns on this. He's still wedded to the dream that 3 to 5 million people voted in the election illegally. This has not been confirmed by any rational, reasonable source. He's basing this primarily on the fact that he feels that his presidency has been legitimized because he didn't win the popular vote. So if you throw in the 3 to 5 million people that supposedly voted for Hillary Clinton, that's his argument. He wants to supposedly get to the bottom of something that does not exist, and that's the reason why the states are going against him on this one, because to give that much of the public's private information, they want to know everything. Criminal backgrounds, who you voted for. A lot of that stuff has nothing to do
with voter fraud. There's no evidence of it. If anything, there's more evidence of voter suppression than anything else. And if anybody wanted to look into that, you'll find some meat on the bones to chew. This is just to please Donald Trump, and it's another diversion from what's going on with all of the investigations and the fact that his administration is getting virtually zero done on any level.
You've done some extensive work on Russia, and you've recently wrote a book about the Russia.
Well, I don't want to shamelessly promote the book, Foreign Policy.
It's not shameless.
Foreign Policy, a game played by global gangsters, and it's how Vladimir Putin strung on Barack Obama and the European Union from taking Crimea. Rex Tillerson put out a statement just the other day saying that they were going to keep all of the sanctions in place until they reached some sort of agreement on Ukraine. To be honest with you, that is never going to happen. Vladimir Putin, let's put it this way. What the difference between a tough guy and a gangster is this. A tough guy can take a punch. A gangster is one who's willing to deliver it. Barack Obama, as much as I respected him as president, he was able to take a punch, but he never delivered one, and that's the issue that I had with him. Vladimir Putin is the United States adversary, and anybody who believes otherwise really don't know what's going on. His mission at this point, in the book that I wrote, and the message that I try to deliver is, and I've said nothing but a lot of flattering things about Vladimir Putin because he's doing exactly what a president of a nation is supposed to do. He's supposed to make sure that his nation wins. But in order to do that, he has to get past the United States. He has to be able to break down the West. And the best way to do it is to start at the top, and you see it's working because as of this week, it's pretty much been recognized that the United States is no longer in a leading space. The United States is no longer considered part of the G20, it's the G19. We have been isolated.
Lee Bynes, our political analyst here. You can check Lee out every week here on Open, bringing us the latest in political roundup. And of course, we'll have to circle the wagon back again on your book and the work that's going on with Russia. Lee, good to have you.
Good to be here.
All right, listen, stay with us. We got to take a quick break. Back with more show coming up right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help. And slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. so he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
And we're back here on Open. The School of Continuing and Professional at Lehman College offers English as a Second Language course known as ESL, and it's open to anyone looking to improve their language skills. Now to share a little bit about the program, we welcome now the ESL teacher at Lehman College, Joel Polchinski, and students Masume Anguti and Fabian Padilla. Close? Got it? There it is. I'm good. All right. Joe, good to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Good. So when we talk about ESL, obviously in our borough, very diverse, and across New York City. But the opportunity to have English as a second language, a program that's actually booming.
That's correct. The college, our new president, has made it a focus of Lehman College to grow the program. And as you said, New York's a very diverse city, maybe the most diverse in the world. So we want to give as many people as possible the opportunity to either learn English or improve English. Students come to us at all levels of comprehension with different goals in mind. Some want to go to college, some maybe want English for the job that they're in, maybe even just in their social lives and their lives as people on the outside. So whatever their goal is, whatever stage they're at, whatever age they are, we welcome them and we will help them learn.
Massimo, as a student, what's it been like for you?
Yes, I'm from Iran actually, and my major is physical education, and I know that United States is one of the famous countries in this field, and here has more opportunity for me to pursue my goals.
Fabian, for you?
Okay, I'm from Colombia, and I want to go to college. Here in New York, I want to study business international business, okay. And learning this is very important for me.
Yeah, and so obviously we talk about Colombia, Iran, and the list goes on of many students who are actually taking ESL. There's an opportunity for people to really jump in and get ahead of this because if you're interested, I guess August is the deadline.
Correct. Obviously, we're in the summer now. We have programs going on, but also in the fall, we're going to be starting up pretty strong. So we encourage people, like I said, we're a very student-oriented program. So we use what's called the communicative approach, meaning we get students right in there using the language. I always say to my students, if I want to teach you how to play tennis, I'm not going to tell you how to play. I'm going to get you on the court and get you to play. So it's the same thing with a language. Again, there are 4 competencies, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, that we teach our students. And like you said, it's kind of like the United Nations. We have students from all over the world. So also culturally, I would say the students get a lot out of our program. It's very student-oriented, and I think the students would agree that it's working out quite well.
And for both of you, obviously, the opportunity to meet people from all across the world.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we always have the opportunity to have interaction with people of other cultures, and for me is very good because you have to learn just know this language, and it's a good job for a good work for
Yes, and I think it's good for us because we can communicate with people, other nationalities, and it's easy for us in the future to find a job easily.
Class is hard? How's it going?
Yes, class is very good actually, and one thing that is very interesting for me about this program is that they don't have a specific pre-packaged program. At first they look at us, they look at what we need and what is our level. Then according to our level, they create a program, and I think this is the best way to teach international students.
And very fun with our professor.
Thank you. I mean, and we make sure also we have a fair amount of Spanish speakers, but that's not exclusively what we have. So the students know that they're not allowed to use their first language, and I think the fact that we have students from all over, really from Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, you name it, Africa. So, they have to work when we're in partnerships, it's usually not with somebody from your first language. So again, I think there are many opportunities for them to learn the language and to use the language. So, I think it's working out quite well.
And we do have some students in the studio too. We want to let you know that as well. And we got a studio audience here. Tell us about that.
Well, they're very excited. They're all, looking at us right now, and and I'm sure they're a little bit happy that they get out of class today. This is taking the place of our class, but yeah, no, they were very excited about this, and we're very excited about the program. As I said, it's really growing.
Right. And to have them here in the studio, maybe we'll get a shot of them before it's all over. Now, I want to let you know, if you want to take part in this ESL, there is going to be a test, and there's a placement test, and the Fall A placement test is taking place Tuesday, August the 15th at 5:30, and then August 19th at 9:30, and that's on a Saturday. And then you have also Fall B, which takes place in October as well.
Correct.
So as far as numbers and getting people involved, obviously we talked about it's booming. Give us some insight as to what kind of numbers you're actually seeing right now.
Right now we're seeing, like I said, the program is kind of going through a renaissance, so we're hoping to grow it. But we have a pretty strong summer program right now. And again, in the fall, people usually refocus. They're back from their summer vacations. They get off the beaches and they want to work on their language. And again, English is such an important key, I would say, to so much of what people want to do here in the U.S. We're a very diverse country, but again, English is really a key to success. And we're conveniently located. We're here in the Bronx. We're accessible by public transit. We're reasonably priced. So, and again, as Masume said, we try to cater the program to the students, their needs. If they want to do more academic English, that's fine. Maybe some people want to do business English. Whatever their goals are, we work with them. If there's something we need to tweak 1 or 2 weeks into the semester, we've done that this summer. If somebody's not maybe in the right class or level or what have you. So it's very student-friendly, very student-centered, I would say.
All right, Joe, thank you for coming. And thank you both for coming and sharing with us. And hope
you
you
so much.
continue to progress there. And thanks for representing the big group over here.
Thank you for having
so
us.
much.
All righty.
Appreciate it. It's a
All
pleasure.
righty. Well, listen, we want you to stay with us, because coming up after the break, we're also going to teach you how to manage your finances. Find out just how when we return in a few seconds.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making Home Affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
And I can't change, even if I try, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Well, the summer is here, and many people, they ask some questions regarding whether they should actually rent an apartment, buy a house during the summertime. People think about that. And in both situations, they have to also keep a healthy credit score, which is also important. And here to talk about how to manage your money and achieve your financial goals, we welcome now the CEO and founder of Credit Solutions, Andy Suku, Y2K Credit Solutions, and Bronx and Brooklyn Realtor, Oliver Toussaint. Good to have you both shared here, and good to have you.
Thank you, Darren. Thanks
As
for
I
having
said,
me back.
Andy, this time of year, people are trying to make that decision a lot, specifically in the summertime, about whether or not it's good for me to actually have an apartment or buy a home. And it's a big difference between both.
Right, absolutely. It all comes down to savings. So what are you going to be spending? Is it worth spending $2,000 for a rent, or you can spend $2,000 in your mortgage and you own your own property in the long term? Oliver specializes in investments and real estates and rentals, and he'll touch on that and what's the best option for everyone.
Well, the rule of thumb is this: you buy low, you sell high, right? If you want to invest, okay? So at this time, the market is peaking, so you have to look for the right deal at this point in time in the market, okay? So if you want to invest, I would definitely say you have to figure out whether or not this deal works for you from a financial perspective in terms of spending. In regards to the renting, if you want to spend, let's say, $3,000 a month renting, or you want to spend $3,000 a month, owning a property. So most people would go to rather owning a property as opposed to renting. So you got to look at the financial makeup of that for yourself personally and see what works best for you.
What are you seeing? Because I know you're a realtor here for Brooklyn as well as the Bronx. What are we seeing here in New York City? Because we see a lot of development going on. Are we seeing a lot of people purchasing homes?
People are purchasing home. The developments that you're seeing now are basically for mostly mid-level to high-end buyers, right? I would recommend you purchase a home at this point in time. In all honesty, you want to ensure that you don't get an apartment where you're kind of paying a mortgage for an apartment as opposed to paying a mortgage for an asset that you own. So my suggestion would be to get an investment for a home that you own at this point in time.
And Andy, to talk about owning a home, obviously it's a big undertaking, but for many people we know, and this was your specialty, the credit and the credit score is paramount.
Absolutely. FICO just actually raised the bar for credit scores. 720 was considered good credit. 720 is now a fair credit rate, a credit score if you get a decent rate on your car. 765 is what you need to get a good rate on your interest rate on your mortgage. But to touch a little bit on what Oliver mentioned, in conjunction of buying a property or renting, budgeting for someone is very important. You have to know your budget if you can afford it, because in inception you can get the house, you can get the down payment and so forth, but what happens 6 months later?
Maintaining, correct.
Maintaining the property.
Correct, that's
just
critical.
Just like a car. Anyone can get a car. Anyone can get a Mercedes, Mars, whatever you want, whatever your choice of car is, but it's maintaining it 6 months down the line. So budgeting is is a key factor in buying a home or even a car. But in order to budget, you have to have the high credit score to get a good rate.
So when we talk about investing, when is actually the best time? Because people always ask that question, the best time. When's the best time for me to do it? When should I really be doing this? You're the expert.
It's relative. It's relative, to be honest with you, right? So the best time could be now. The best time could be 10 years from now. It depends on the individual's financials at that point in time. So, for example, I would say it depends on where you want to find a deal and where you want to look for a deal, okay? So, for example, there may be some great deals in East New York at this point in time that you can find through a bank or maybe a short sale or a short payoff from the bank, or maybe someone who's going into foreclosure that's willing to make a deal with you, right? So it's all relative. It's really not, you can't say August is the best time or the fall is the best time. It's relative to the person's finances and where they can find the right deal. Okay, so the right deal could be anywhere in the tri-state area, but you have to do your homework and your research in order to get that done, and this is where we come in to try to assist you in doing so.
To touch on Oliver, what he said again also, anytime is the right time to invest if you have the credentials, you have the credit score, the down payment, W-2, tax returns. If you have all those components to move forward in a mortgage, any time is a good time. It's just the deal that's out there and what fits your budget and what you can afford.
Correct, correct.
So you gotta pretty much wait for that optimum moment and know what's in your bank account first.
Correct. And in order to prepare yourself for that, have your financials together already. Have your tax return, your last 2-year tax return available. Have your W-2s, your last 3-month W-2 available. Have your down payment. Have your credit up to par. You don't want to find a deal, then come into the table, my credit score is not up to par. And credit score is the key driving component to everything that happened in the financial world.
Better, or is it a good thing to be pre-approved? Because we hear pre-approval a lot. Is it better to always walk into something pre-approved?
It depends on the circumstance, but it does enhance your ability to get that home that you're looking for, to get that pre-approval prior. And it also depends on the bank that's going to assist you. Most banks that do pre-approve you, it depends on the rate that they're going to give you, so those are the things you want to look at. For those people looking to purchase a home, what I would suggest is that if you're going to go to a certain lender to get this pre-approval, ensure that they kind of give you an outline of the differences and the types of loans they're going to provide for you. So for example, if you want to put 3.5 down, or maybe 5% down, or maybe 10% down, kind of have them compare all three for your long-term basis. So this will help you understanding how to maintain the home once you get into purchasing it. So the pre-approval does enhance it, but you want to look at other factors also when you're looking to invest or purchase a home.
To drill down on what Oliver is stating also, I'm in a credit business, so we deal with clients from all walks, coming from realtors, mortgage brokers, to fix their credit. Realtors don't want to invest time with the consumer if they don't have a pre-approval. In order to have a pre-approval, you have to have good credit. Your credit has to be up to par.
Correct.
So on Oliver's Oliver's point of on
reference
it, yes, you should get the pre-approval, and which bank you're working with. On a realtor's perspective, you should get the pre-approval before you even see a realtor. Because a realtor wouldn't even work with you.
And before we get out of the segment, I know you have a major event taking place. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, you want?
Well, you can speak on it.
So Judy Eltman, realtor in Brooklyn, we're partnering up with a seminar for Brooklyn and the Bronx to educate consumers on financial literacy. July 22nd, right?
July 22nd, correct.
It's held in Brooklyn. It's going to be a huge event, and you know, being in the credit industry, financial literacy is very limited, and we realize that a lot of consumers don't have the right financial literacy. So we're trying to educate the consumers, get them ready to buy home purchasing, and even get them to have their credit up to par to save money on interest and any transaction that they make.
Right, and the event is being held on 4th Avenue, 25 4th Avenue at the Pacific Brooklyn Public Library branch on the 2nd floor, July 22nd from 11 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Well, certainly they have the information at the bottom of the screen where they can be able to tap in and find out more information. And congratulations. I know you're celebrating 11 years as a business as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yesterday was the 11th year for Y2K Credit Solutions, being in the credit restoration industry. We made it that far, so I'm very excited about that. And all this started in my mom's basement, like you know, like I had mentioned before to you. And never in a million years would I have thought that this would have gotten to this level. But we're number one in the industry, and we're here to help all the clients regain their financial powers.
All right. Well, Andy Suku and Oliver Toussaint, thank you so much for sharing with us. And if you want to find out more about them, a little bit more in depth, they'll be on Perspectives, and you can check them both out there. Going to take a quick break. We got more show coming up. Stay with us. We'll open you up to more right after this.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness. I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
About inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchool.com.
Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. Behold, the angry giant. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Cheru has no choice. She and millions like her walk miles a day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Well, yesterday, the Bronx gathered at World Changers Church on Grand Concourse for the funeral of Officer Mayo Soto's Familia, who was fatally shot last week here in our borough. This year, 69 officers have died in the line of duty in the country, according to numbers from Officers Down Memorial page. Here now to talk more, we welcome now Joseph Imperatrice, who's from Blue Lives Matter New York, and he shares with us a little bit about yesterday's service and the ongoing challenge for law enforcement. And first of all, our condolences to the family of Blue. We know about this, and then also, as I was sharing before, the state troopers actually lost their life upstate New York. And it's just as, you know, if you're in law enforcement, a real tough season.
Since 2014, we've had 6 NYPD officers killed in the line of duty, and incidents like last week with Officer Familia takes you back to those days, and you wonder, when is it going to stop? When is it going to be enough? The state trooper that was killed. And you go to these funerals and you see that sea of blue, and you see officers, because they're human beings, shedding tears and consoling one another. And the human emotion comes out. But the next day, you're back on that street. You're doing the best you could do, because that's what we do as officers. We protect New York City. But it doesn't get any easier, whether it was Officer Familia or Ramos and Liu almost 3 years ago.
And when you talk about it, I remember Officer Wenjin Liu and Officer Ramos and talking about that and covering that, just the raw emotion that was actually felt, not just amongst police officers, but literally across the city, because I think in a moment such as this, you recognize that with all the challenges that law enforcement faces, that one day can actually, your life can just be changed dramatically.
Or you lead into it, they always say that tomorrow's not guaranteed, but either is the rest of today. And someone like George Lopez yesterday that goes on and says that police need to get deported, and you have political figures that stand in front of a podium and kind of put gasoline to a fire. And that's what happens. You have people who are emotionally disturbed, they feed into it, they go out and cause these killings or assassinations. And it does start with the top, with the leadership, but I think us as a community need to come together. I think gun violence all over the city, you see it in Chicago, is a big issue. We need to put aside our differences, get the emotions out on both sides, no matter if you're an officer or not, and help one another. This city could be a great place, it is. And I think we need to stop talking about it in Facebook tweets and worrying about whether the mayor's here or in Germany. That doesn't matter. What matters is you don't need a 9/11 to happen to come together. And I think we need to start realizing that.
What is the biggest challenge, you think, in terms of bridging the gap between police and community? Because obviously we see a lot of stuff on social media, you see, but what from your perspective can be done to improve that relationship?
Conversation. I think a lot of media stations go out there and they give a false narrative. And if you don't know and you're misinformed, you believe it. Just like when you read the papers, there's always things that are missing. We need to get the truth out. When you're able to work together with the truth, you see it from a different side. We're supposed to work together, not try to tear each other apart. And the problem is nowadays is everything, it's politically correct. Oh, Republicans or Democrats. It doesn't matter. Whatever happened, just doing things because it was the right thing to do. That's the issue. It's pointing the finger. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. No. That stuff has to stop. We have to be adults. I think everything's watered down. Just take it back to the basics and start doing things that really matter.
Take me back to yesterday for a minute. Obviously, a lot of sentiments were shared. A lot of officers, as you said, very raw in the emotions, and it's something we don't normally see from behind the badge. Walk us behind the badge to give us a little bit of a better perspective of what it's like and what do you feel when you're out there?
You want to know what's incredible? The NYPD, they make movies about us, Hollywood movies, and when you're standing there and you have all the emotions going on, you see law enforcement from all over the nation. We saw Montreal yesterday take a ride out here to support us. And you see that we're not much different. I like to say law enforcement is like the all-star team of the United States, because everyone from every background wears that uniform. It's a job, and I think one of the best figures, I think this last week, has been Police Commissioner O'Neill. He has been amazing. He went to the swearing-in ceremony and told the new recruits, you're gonna have some great days and you're gonna have some really bad days. And the great days are gonna outweigh the bad days, but days like Officer Familia, you're going to get down and feel like you can't get up. And you're going to get up, and you're going to put that uniform on because you're going to do it in memory of those officers. And over at that funeral yesterday, I think it was incredible what he said. Where is the uproar? Where are these people in the streets when not just an officer, but one of your own in the community who lives in the Bronx is shot and killed in cold blood? Where is everyone? So he was incredible, standing up there and saying, we need to come together, put our differences aside, and let's start standing up for what we really need to. Violence is a big issue. Gun violence is a really big issue. And like I said, we really need to start coming together and start putting into perspective what really matters.
Give me a gauge about morale right now. What's morale like?
Morale as an officer, not just in New York City, all over, is, I'm going to say, a little bit low. We started Blue Lives about 3 years ago because from within, the morale was so low. And the way I feel it is, if you're happy from within and you love doing your job no matter what it is, you give a better product. And the community then could relate to it, and now you're working together. We actually came out with a video. It's at beyondtheline.us, and it shows exactly what we do and how we support the families and how we're able to boost morale from all the I'm going to say the charity work that we do. So I think people should go and see the difference. You also see the families, the raw emotions of how they met their loved ones, and also the days that they remember of exactly the temperature and what they were wearing on a day when they lost their loved ones. So I think it's a good piece for people to go and check out.
And so for people who don't know about your organization, share a little bit about it.
Back in 2014, it was rough. We had, and it hits home for all of us. You have the Eric Gardner situation here. You have St. Louis. You have Baltimore. And every day you woke up and it was something negative about police officers in the news, and there were riots and protests, and it was just every day police officers were portrayed as just these terrible human beings. And tying into the morale issue was terrible. You show up to work and nobody really wanted to go out there because you didn't want to be on the front page of the paper for doing your job. And we thought, well, maybe we could combat the negativity with positivity. And the worst thing that could ever happen as a police officer is a knock on your door, a telephone call that you're not coming home. And every time they hear that, or the funeral like Officer Familia, they get back to that day. But if we can show up, almost like a Make-A-Wish Foundation Extreme Home Makeover for police, knock on their door, make a phone call, put a smile on their face, and maybe treat them to a vacation or something to get their mind off of it. It could show them that not every knock or telephone call is going to be negative, and maybe put a smile on their face just for a little bit. This incident, we actually started a fund for Officer Familia, and actually special memory of shirts. So if anybody wants to go donate, especially being that she's from the Bronx, BlueLivesMatterNYC.org, they can go do it. 100% of the proceeds can go to this family.
All righty, Joseph Imperatrice, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. And once again, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with you as in this rough season.
Thank you very much.
All righty, listen, staying along those lines, our reporter Arlie Bacocco actually went to the vigil that was held for Officer Familia this past week. She brings us that story.
Cut short just days from each other were remembered outside Bronx Lebanon Hospital. That's where on June 30th, Dr. Henry Bello, a former employee, fired shots, killing Dr. Tracy Tam from Queens, who was covering a shift for a friend, and injuring several workers. Then days later, in the early morning of July 5th, another shooting. A 12-year veteran with the NYPD, police officer Miosotis Familia from the 46th precinct, was shot execution style by this gunman, identified as Alexander Bonds, while seated in a mobile command unit near East 183rd Street and Creston Avenue.
But right now we're just grieving and mourning the loss of these bright, young individuals who just wanted to make a difference in their communities. Dr. Tam wanted to help people get better and heal, and Officer Familia, what she wanted to do was help make her community safe.
A doctor approached me, holding his left hand, saying that he was shot.
Just yards from where people were gathered to pay tribute to both, Bronx Lebanon patient transporter Bernard Blondell shared he was completely unaware of the drama unfolding. All he knew is that the patient he was treating had to get to the ER. Due to a fire happening at the same time, the elevators were shut down, leaving him and others with no choice but to act fast.
I grabbed the sheet, wrapped it around his torso. Everybody grabbed up his body. We lifted him up and we went down the stairs. 11 flights.
Now, days later, after hearing the full report, Blondell had this to say.
Now we have to pay attention to our surroundings at work, in a hospital where you're supposed to be safe. So, but that's anywhere. Now you have to pay attention to everywhere you go, no matter where you're at. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is sacred anymore.
At the prayer vigil organized by Local 1199 and other unions, state elected leaders, including State Assemblyman Victor Pichardo, called for more accountability for gun buyers, and State Assemblyman Felix Ortiz from the 51st Assembly District introduced legislation to charge buyers with a $250,000 gun liability registration.
$250,000 will not bring their life back, but I will tell you this much, will keep those guns owners accountable and responsible for their actions and for their irresponsibility for leaving those guns unattended.
New York City Councilman Andy King on Officer Familia, who was a Bronx native and mother of 3.
For our officer who was executed, the love will continue to shine in our hearts for her. She made the ultimate sacrifice of protecting and serving and gave her life.
Notes continue to flood the board here as the community recovers from not just one senseless act of violence, but now another, with both the result of guns getting into the wrong hands. For BronxNet, this is Arlene Makoko.
And thank you, Arlene. And as we continue very briefly our conversation, you saw there you got the doctor on one hand, then you have also Officer Familia, both tied to gun violence. But obviously, a lot of good things can actually come out of this. And it's hard to say that, but really there are some good things that can actually come out of this, and that's community actually coming together.
It's crazy because in New York City, you never expect to have an active shooter situation like we did last week. And it brings home that this can really happen. And this world, we're in a rough place. We really need to start coming together. What I was really, really impressed about and thought it was a good move was Reverend Al Sharpton brought the family of Officer Familia up, put aside any differences he may or may not have had, and donated to the cause. And that's what we need. We need the political figures of that sense to start showing and setting an example. Because, like I said earlier, it does start from the top, and that's a big step forward. I would love to be able to work with groups like that or any other group, because any movement or group starts for a great reason. It's the other people that come along and tie it in for bad things and give it a bad name. Like I said, we need to start working together, and we're one. This is the greatest city in the world. We should be the capital where people look and say, New York City, we want to be like them. And if we could start by making this the safest, literally, biggest city in the world, I think we're on a right and good path.
That's right. Joseph Imperatrice from Blue Lives Matter, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us again. And unfortunately, look, we've come to the end of the show today. We've had a great discussion. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, I want to thank you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you miss any part of the show, guess what? You can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. That's on Cablevision's Channel 67. If you have Verizon Fios, that's 33. Or, as always, you can watch this anytime on the web at www.bronxnet.org. I'm Darren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open. I'll see you back on Friday.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.